Imagine a secret so profound, so earth-shattering, it's been hidden for over 70 years. A secret guarded by governments, whispered in hushed tones by ufologists, and dismissed as mere myth by the mainstream. What if I told you that the truth about Roswell, the most famous UFO incident in history, isn't what you think it is? What if the official story was a carefully constructed lie, designed to keep humanity in the dark? Today, we're diving deep into a revelation that could change everything you believe about our place in the universe. Prepare to have your perceptions challenged, your mind opened, and perhaps your very understanding of reality shattered. This isn't just a story. It's a testament to the unknown, unearthed from the pages of a controversial book. Are you ready for the truth? Please like and subscribe to my channel. Please comment what you want to suggest to me. That will be the motivation for me to make videos every day. Thank you very much. Now let's get back to the topic. Never before revealed details behind the 1947 Roswell UFO incident. Our journey begins with a book, Alien Interview, published in 2008 by Lawrence Spencer. Now Spencer himself isn't claiming to be the author in the traditional sense. He insists he's merely the editor, presenting a collection of transcripts from a most extraordinary source, the late Matilda O'Donnell McElroy, a former U.S. Army Air Force nurse. According to Spencer, McElroy sent him a mysterious package containing these transcripts, detailing her alleged interviews with an alien survivor of the infamous 1947 Roswell crash. This isn't just about a crashed saucer. It's about a series of conversations that could completely redefine our understanding of the cosmos, our world, and even ourselves. So what exactly happened in Roswell in 1947? The official narrative is well known. A weather balloon crashed on a ranch near Roswell, New Mexico. But before that, something far more intriguing occurred. On July 5, 1947, a rancher named W. Brazel discovered strange, metallic debris scattered across his property. He reported it to Sheriff George Wilcox, who then alerted the nearby Roswell Army Airfield. 2 days later, Major Jesse Marcel and other officers arrived to collect the fragments. The very next morning, the Roswell Daily Record ran a sensational headline: RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell area. This initial report, attributed to Base Commander Colonel William Blanchard, sent shockwaves across the nation. However, the excitement was short-lived. By the late afternoon of July 8th, a hasty press conference was called at the headquarters of the 8th Air Force. General Roger Ramey himself declared the flying saucer was nothing more than a misidentified weather balloon equipped with a radar target. The debris, he claimed, was aluminum foil and balsa wood. This rapid flip-flop by the military immediately raised eyebrows. Why the sudden change of tune? Why the frantic cover-up? Despite their strenuous efforts to suppress it, whispers of a crashed alien spacecraft and surviving extraterrestrials spread like wildfire across the U.S., igniting the UFO craze that persists to this day. But without concrete evidence, it remained just that, a persistent legend. Fast forward to September 14, 2007, over 60 years after the Roswell incident shook the American public. Lawrence Spencer receives a large, unexpected package from Navan, Ireland. The sender? Matilda O'Donnell McElroy, a name that initially rings no bells for Spencer. Inside, he finds a letter and a stack of manuscripts. The letter states that McElroy was an old acquaintance who had spoken with Spencer years ago and hoped these documents would aid his research into extraterrestrials. It's then that Spencer's memory sparks. 10 years prior, while researching his book The Oz Factor, he had stumbled upon clues suggesting a nurse might have been present at the Roswell crash site and had contact with the extraterrestrials. He found her, Matilda McElroy, but she was tight-lipped. only confirming her proximity to the crash site near the Roswell Army Airfield without revealing anything further. Spencer left his contact information, hoping she would reach out. Now, a decade later, the package. Spencer had even sent her a complimentary copy of The Oz Factor when it was published, but there had been no contact since. He had almost forgotten about her. McElroy, by her own admission, should have kept these secrets to her grave. But in her final days, from her hospital bed, she made a momentous decision. She chose to disclose her secrets to Spencer, telling him her time was running out and pleading with him to make the contents of her documents public. This act of revelation, coming after 60 years of silence, speaks volumes about the immense burden she carried. The package contained 3 types of documents: handwritten notes on student paper, almost illegible, 23 pounds of old typewritten manuscripts, and various other printed materials on different types of paper, all showing signs of frequent use. Though the manuscripts were disorganized, as Spencer meticulously read through them, he realized he had found what he'd been searching for years. McElroy had indeed witnessed the 1947 Roswell event and had conversed with the alien survivors. Spencer believes his sincerity from a decade prior must have impressed her, or perhaps she simply couldn't find anyone else willing to help her reveal these crucial documents. Spencer immediately tried to contact McElroy, but the landlord who answered his call delivered a somber message. Matilda and her husband had passed away in their hospital beds just weeks before. McElroy had lived a life of profound torment since 1947, knowing what others didn't and weren't allowed to know. She was repeatedly told to keep silent, that silence was paramount to protecting humanity because other extraterrestrial civilizations were always observing Earth, and revealing this truth would cause widespread panic and a crisis of faith. So they believed not letting people know was the right decision. Many others involved in the incident had attempted to disclose information, but they all mysteriously vanished. This forced McElroy into a lifetime of silence. But as death approached, she decided these 60 years of secrets could not be buried with her. She believed every one of us has the right to know. After much deliberation and rereading her heartfelt letter, Spencer chose to edit and publish the book, fulfilling McElroy's final wish. Firstly, her letter was incredibly moving. Secondly, Spencer thoroughly cross-referenced the documents and found no discrepancies. He decided to publish it as a work of fact fiction, allowing readers to discern the truth for themselves. So what's the real story according to McElroy's account? On July 5, 1947, a craft did indeed crash in Roswell. The military were the first to know, and their initial public statement that they had recovered a flying disc was true. They truly were at a ranch in Roswell, recovering a crashed craft. The problem was, this was their first encounter of its kind, and they were completely unprepared. In their confusion, they decided to release the information to the media. The Roswell Daily Record quickly put it on the front page with the headline, "U.S. Air Force Captures UFO." But then, as the Air Force conducted further patrols of the surrounding areas, a second craft was found, and within it, the bodies of the crew members. This is when the true gravity of the situation hit them. They immediately convened a press conference later that afternoon. The flying disc was now recategorized as a high-altitude weather balloon with a radar target. When information about the alien bodies surfaced, they held a second press conference, claiming the aliens were merely dummies from the balloon. This contradictory behavior by the military was, in McElroy's words, anything but normal. And here's where McElroy's personal account truly begins. She recounts the entire process of her encounter with the alien survivor from the Roswell incident. At that time, she states, "I was working for a medical unit at Walker Air Force Base. I was transferred to the scene of the accident. The survivors of the second craft needed urgent medical attention. That's why I witnessed the entire scene of the accident." She describes the first UFO crashing on a ranch, leaving nothing but wreckage with no crew found. The second UFO, however, crashed 8 kilometers from the first, near the town of Corona. This second craft was remarkably intact, resembling an aircraft more than a flying disc. Inside the cockpit were 5 seats, each occupied by a small silver-suited, bare-headed creature. They had suffered significant impact from the crash, losing vital signs, but one was injured and still alive. Field personnel tried desperately to communicate with this mysterious creature, but all efforts failed. It couldn't speak and didn't respond to any symbols. Then, something extraordinary happened as McElroy began examining the creature's injuries. The alien established communication with her, not through words, but through mental imagery and sensations that flooded her mind. This feeling swept through my head, she recalled, and I was utterly surprised. Since no one else present had any reaction to the creature except for her, McElroy decided to report it to her superiors. After a brief discussion, they decided to assign her to work with the alien throughout its stay. As she accompanied the alien back to the base, McElroy wondered why it was willing to communicate with her. Perhaps, she mused, firstly because I was a nurse. My role at the scene, as a medical personnel, posed no threat. Furthermore, I was a woman, and the only one there without a weapon. Or perhaps, in some way, this alien simply trusted me alone. The alien couldn't move on its own and was carried on a stretcher to the base, with McElroy by its side. From that point on, she was designated as the interpreter for this extraterrestrial life form. A group of military and non-military personnel gave her a detailed list of questions, instructing her to follow them during her interviews with the alien, with every answer meticulously recorded. Due to the extraordinary nature of the case, McElroy's security was heightened, and she was required to sign a secrecy agreement. From July 7, 1947, until August 12, 1947, the day the alien departed, she was responsible for the extraterrestrial and participated in numerous communication sessions. Initially, she felt a profound fear upon seeing such a creature. In terms of its physical appearance, the alien was short, small, and slender, about the height of a 10-year-old child, approximately 1.2 meters, 3 feet 11 inches tall, with smooth, gray skin. Compared to its tiny limbs and torso, its head was disproportionately large. Both its hands and feet had 3 fingers capable of gripping. It had no nose, mouth, or ears. Where the nose should be were 2 small holes, and the mouth was a narrow slit, not resembling an eating or speaking organ. Its eyes were exceptionally large, completely black with transparent corneas, no whites and no eyelids, giving it a perpetual, unblinking stare. McElroy speculated that ears were unnecessary for them due to space travel, where sound doesn't transmit in a traditional medium. And since they don't eat or speak, a narrow slit for a mouth makes sense. They also emitted no sounds whatsoever. Anatomical studies of the other alien bodies found at the crash site revealed no internal organs, no biological cells, and no reproductive organs. Instead, their bodies were permeated with complex neural systems. McElroy admits, "We still don't understand how these things work. Perhaps they weren't truly biological entities. At the time, we thought they were more like robots." Later, she learned that they could use their own energy as a power source to sustain their bodily functions. Their bodies required no oxygen, food, water, or any other nutrients or energy. They functioned like long-lasting batteries after being fully charged. Despite their seemingly simple structure compared to ours, their bodies were incredibly advanced. As for the alien's gender, McElroy states that there were no visible gender characteristics. However, she could feel that it possessed a kind of feminine aura and a strong demeanor. When asked for its name, it conveyed that it had no name but could be called AI, which McElroy surmised was likely a phonetic approximation of her own name, Errol. Therefore, she deduced it was female. AI introduced herself as a pilot of the extraterrestrial spacecraft. McElroy initially worried that AI might not want to answer certain technical questions, assuming that as a pilot, AI would be part of an organization with strict secrecy protocols. However, in their conversations, McElroy realized that AI never hid anything from her. She was honest and trustworthy, unless she genuinely didn't know the answer to a question. When asked about her body, AI explained that it was neither a robot nor a biological body, but a remotely activated spiritual life form. McElroy understood this as a kind of doll or proxy controlled by AI's soul. Its skin could withstand extreme temperatures and drastic changes in atmospheric conditions and pressure. AI's eyes possessed exceptional vision, capable of seeing electromagnetic waves beyond the human visual spectrum. Their bodies were perfectly adapted for space. AI's slender, gaunt physique was due to the uselessness of muscle tissue in space. This lean form was the most efficient for space travel. Her body could also function perfectly well in water. McElroy briefly wondered if they might originate from a planet completely covered in water and darkness, where their smooth skin and hypersensitive eyes would be more advantageous than on Earth's surface. However, she didn't pursue these tangents, strictly adhering to the pre-provided list of questions. Whenever McElroy asked a question and AI responded, she would relay the information to a typist beside her, whose job was to record the information quickly and accurately. Surrounding McElroy were various recording devices, cameras, and even an electroencephalogram (EEG) to monitor her own status. She was also informed that a team of foreign language translation experts, including a psychology professor, would arrive to assist and participate in the conversations with AI, helping to clarify issues and interpret the answers. The reason for this extensive support, McElroy was told, was that she was just a nurse with no translation qualifications, and her level of understanding might be insufficient to convey information accurately, despite being the only one who could understand AI's mind. Over the next 6 weeks, their conversations became increasingly frequent, with each exchange leading to an exponential increase in mutual understanding. The alien AI truly did not sleep. Having no mouth, it neither ate nor drank. How it sustained itself remained a mystery. Its slender body was clearly unsuited for Earth's gravity. Its weak legs, lacking muscles, couldn't support its entire body, especially its heavy head. Consequently, it mostly remained seated. However, its hands and feet were remarkably flexible. The initial conversations were quite difficult, especially when there were questions or answers that McElroy couldn't articulate verbally. AI conveyed that the presence of extraterrestrial beings and their companions pose no biological threat to humans or other Earth creatures, such as dangerous bacteria or contaminants, because bacteria cannot survive in space. AI's companions on the spacecraft knew she was on Earth with them, but they would not come to Earth to search for her, as they all had their own missions. Everyone was eager to know where these aliens came from. AI stated that she came from a place called the Domain. McElroy wasn't sure if her translation of the term was accurate, but that was the information she received. AI briefly described her homeland, but since McElroy wasn't an astronomer, she couldn't precisely reconstruct its shape or location. However, the mental images she received suggested a cluster of planets orbiting stars at the center of a colossal constellation. This planetary group seemed to be AI's homeland or birthplace. This star cluster is collectively known as the Domain. This implies their home isn't a single planet, but a vast collection of planets around a group of stars. This domain is approximately 40 light-years from Earth, a distance later confirmed by the experts present. A and her companions came to Earth to protect the domain's claim of ownership. This information genuinely confused McElroy. She didn't understand what ownership they were referring to. AI's current visit was specifically to investigate radiation explosions and burning clouds. This meant that years prior, humanity had tested atomic bombs, an action that drew their attention. According to AI, Nuclear weapons are a sign of a primitive civilization broadcasting a signal to the outside world, asserting its level of development. They didn't want humans to know of their presence because, as a matter of principle, their interaction with humans was forbidden. However, the current situation was an accident. They were discovered first, making contact unavoidable. AI explained that the cause of their crash was a lightning strike hitting their ship, leading to a loss of control. AI also revealed that beyond the domain, countless other races are distributed throughout the universe. She confidently asserted that her civilization was currently at the highest level of development in the universe. McElroy felt skeptical about this, believing that if there were truly so many diverse civilizations in the universe, surely there would be an even more advanced one somewhere. Nevertheless, the domain's civilization far surpassed humanity's imagination. This was humanity's first dialogue with an extraterrestrial life form, and everyone was incredibly excited. However, when the military personnel read the content of their conversations, they became disappointed and frustrated. They felt McElroy didn't fully understand the messages AI conveyed and had to adjust a whole new set of questions. An officer led McElroy to a lounge area to await further instructions. During this mission, she couldn't leave the base and was constantly monitored, though treated kindly and allowed to eat and sleep whenever needed. Meanwhile, many people questioned AI. A psychologist urgently flew to the military base and prepared to interview her. Then came the CIA on a secret mission. It was rumored that a Native American individual had telepathic abilities. However, both attempts at communication failed. Everyone else who tried to communicate with AI received no information. An officer asked McElroy why these experts couldn't communicate with AI. She replied that she didn't know. Privately, she thought the reason AI didn't communicate with them was because she feared them, or didn't trust them, or their questions were too ambitious. But McElroy didn't tell them that she had tried her best with every question, attempting to ask in the friendliest way possible. For example, instead of "Where are you from?" "What is your purpose on Earth?" she would ask, "Where is your homeland? What brought you to Earth?" She believed AI could sense her friendliness and sincerity. At the same time, McElroy was genuinely curious to hear anything she could from AI. However, the intelligence officers and leading experts, acting as representatives of global superpowers, seemed overly confident. McElroy also began to feel the pressure of being the first human on Earth to contact an extraterrestrial life form. Ultimately, it was decided that she would remain to continue her mission of communicating with the alien. As she continued to interview AI, the answers she received became increasingly astounding. However, her initial curiosity and excitement gradually morphed into anxiety and fear. "If I could," she wrote, "I hoped I would never know the answers to the subsequent interview questions." In the small, sealed room, staff busily arranged lighting and cameras. Experts from various fields took turns observing AI, who indifferently watched all of this, sitting motionless on her chair with no expression on her face. When McElroy entered with a list of questions, the others retreated, but observed intently through a one-way mirror in the next room. These experts gave McElroy an additional question. They wanted to know how to communicate with AI without her mediation. They yearned to be alone with her and asked their own questions. This time, AI was placed on a sofa, suitable for her body, purchased from a children's furniture store. Although, given her non-biological body, AI likely didn't need such a comfortable chair. When McElroy entered, AI felt happy, though the others couldn't perceive this. After they established a brainwave connection, a state of complete warmth and comfort enveloped McElroy's mind. She was amazed that this alien could evoke such emotions. The formal interview began. The room was completely silent, as their communication was telepathic, requiring no speech. All conversations were transcribed by stenographers immediately after McElroy relayed them. After the initial rounds of questioning, the results were not as promising as expected. This time, with the goal of direct contact with AI, the military provided McElroy with more questions about the aliens' communication methods. AI explained that although the domain had been on Earth for a very long time, their communication was not translating well. At this point, a linguist named John Never proposed a solution, suggesting both parties communicate in the same language. If AI didn't recognize human writing and language, trust in humanity couldn't be established. However, it seemed impractical for McElroy to learn the alien language. Therefore, they proposed that AI learn English. To everyone's surprise, AI agreed. The expert selected McGuffey's Eclectic Readers, enlightening books used by pioneer American educators in the 19th century to teach children. These books contained numerous illustrations depicting relationships between children, family, teachers, friends, and animals. They conveyed traditional moral values like honesty, kindness, diligence, frugality, courage, patriotism, respect for parents, and reverence for God. McElroy did not anticipate AI's rapid learning ability. However, she admitted, "I was wrong." AI possessed an incredibly powerful learning ability and a keen intellect. AI seemed to enjoy the books and studied diligently, learning 14 hours a day. While her teacher, McElroy, rested, A would spend another 10 hours reviewing, barely sleeping due to her intense study. In just 3 days, AI completed all the lessons. Afterward, she began self-studying the Britannica Encyclopedia, then read everything about astronomy, geography, different cultures, and literary masterpieces. She read everything, and she read incredibly fast. On the 16th day since her arrival, A shared with McElroy that her 3 favorite books were Alice in Wonderland, Don Quixote, and 1001 Nights. She explained that these books revealed a great soul and creative force, which was far more important than mastering a skill or power. After closing the final book, I began her story. Although she still communicated telepathically, the entire process was now in English. A revealed that she came from an ancient and distant civilization in outer space called the Domain. The Domain manages countless star systems, covering a quarter of the entire visible universe, and has existed for billions of years. A had been a member of the Domain's expeditionary force on Earth for thousands of years. Since her arrival, she had not contacted anyone nor had any personal connections, as her mission here was not to interact with the inhabitants of Domain planets. Their current mission was to investigate the nuclear weapon test that occurred in New Mexico, very likely the Trinity test in 1945, where the world's first atomic bomb was detonated. The Domain had been interested in Earth and the Milky Way for a very long time, hundreds of thousands of years. Why their interest? AI explained that guided by instructions and after careful investigation, they discovered the facilities of the old empire, cleverly hidden within the solar system. McElroy understandably wondered what this old empire was. AI seemed to sense her doubt and explained that the old empire was a force that had been present in space for a very long time, interfering with and breaking the established rules of the universe since the emergence of intelligent life on planets. Their goal was to manipulate and control Earth. The Domain forces tracked the old empire's traces and discovered Earth, which is how they arrived here. Although there had been a war between the Domain and the old empire, resulting in a Domain victory, they couldn't completely eradicate the old empire's forces. The battlefield of this war spanned an area of approximately 300 million light years, which these aliens had shielded with masking technology to prevent humans from observing traces of the interstellar war. Later, when McElroy learned about the discovery of the boat's void in 1981, she was truly astonished when scientists stated that its diameter was nearly 300 million light years. This 300 million light year cosmic void is located 700 million light years from Earth. It's said that this region should contain thousands of galaxies, yet all we've observed to date is an empty void. No planets, no light, nothing exists there. With things so far beyond our imagination that the domain could accomplish, we all wonder, what is their mode of existence? How can they do such things? A shared that all of us, upon birth, are conscious, immortal spiritual entities, including humans. Because the primary nature of an immortal being is to live in an eternal state, which is the present, and the only reason we exist. AI called these beings existing as souls. Souls are neither born nor do they die. Each soul is absolutely unique and cannot be replicated. She stated that the true mode of existence is the spiritual mode, meaning performing tasks in space. She and other dolls, proxies, inhabit these extraterrestrial bodies, which are crafted from synthetic materials. These bodies coordinate with a pilot via a special electromagnetic wave. The frequency of each electromagnetic wave and each doll body is unique, just like no two human fingerprints are identical. When working, they live in these doll bodies. When not working, they leave them. These dolls are equipped with highly sensitive electronic nervous systems. The purpose of these systems is to allow every thought to be precisely self-calibrated and adjusted to a specific electromagnetic wavelength. Then, the dolls are adjusted to match the wavelength and establish connection. The design of their spacecraft is similar. It is specially adjusted based on the frequency range of each pilot, allowing the spacecraft to be operated by the pilot's intention. Therefore, even though the spacecraft lacks complex controls or equipment, its operation is incredibly simple and flexible. However, at the time of the crash, a lightning bolt struck the spacecraft, causing an electrical short circuit. The power loss immediately severed the wireless connection between the spacecraft and the pilot. Much like a brain losing contact with a body, what happens then? The pilot loses balance and crashes. Thus, this high technology also has weaknesses. It won't function without electrical connections. AI also didn't hesitate to reveal that their spacecraft contain technologies that have never existed on Earth. And even if these technologies were discovered by humans, they wouldn't be able to replicate their ships. This is simply because of a lack of raw materials. Advancements in material science would limit humanity's progress, a major obstacle for an interstellar civilization. This is especially severe on Earth. Firstly, a very large portion of Earth's resources are stored in its core due to the dense lower layers. The alien interview challenges us to reconsider our understanding of the universe and our place within it. It suggests that truth, often stranger than fiction, can be buried under layers of secrecy and disbelief. The central takeaway is that we may not be alone, and the very fabric of our reality, including our understanding of consciousness and life itself, might be far more complex and ancient than we currently imagine. It also hints at a hidden history of interstellar conflict and a cosmic order that humanity is only beginning to glimpse.